Hello, beloved, and welcome back to Simple Life Chronicles, where it's our mission to encourage and edify you by sharing our practical country life. My name is Aisha, and in today's video, we're going to talk about some stuff that's been happening. It's October 24th today, 2021. And so I'm going to just go ahead and talk about it. When we moved into the house, there were some things here on the property that, let's just say I didn't quite get those boxes checked. And so we're at a place right now where we're going to have to actually address some of those issues. And since some of you might be considering making a move into the country, just thought I'd share some of our experience because you may need to address some of these issues as well. And I thought that they would be helpful. So give me a moment. I'm going to take you over yonder and show you what we have going on. Okay, so here we are. And this is the development that we have going on here. As you can see, there's quite a bit of dirt. Don't mind the little push mower. I was working on some other things and just stopped to talk to you about this. But as you can see here, on the side of the house, there's this lovely contraption. These two are our rain barrels. There's 10 of them actually around the house, and there are some additional water storage containers. However, we bought these rain barrels because we intended to use them, rather, I intended to use them for watering our garden and the plants that I have here outside in the yard. We do have a well, but I was not certain that the well was strong enough or deep enough to really sustain the amount of watering that I was doing. So, for example, I can easily drain 30 gallons of water through the garden and all the plants that I have around in our property. Especially in the height of the summer, it's more like 50 gallons of water in a day. I can easily drain that. So I didn't think it was a good idea to keep draining that from the well, which is why we have the rain barrels. However, about 3 weeks ago, after it was Friday night, so Sabbath was just settling in, and we were, settling in for the night, and all of a sudden, the well pump, we could hear it. My brother could hear it actually, and it kept running. That's not a good sign. If you have a well and you have a well pump and the well pump is just running continuously, you start hearing it more often, that's usually a sign that you have an issue with either your well pump or with the well itself, some of the mechanisms in the well. So we turned off our well pump because the last thing you want to do is just ruin everything, right? Well, after we did that, there was no more water running through the pipes after that. No more. So for 3 weeks, we have had no running water, not running water through the pipes. We have been using our rainwater that we have in the barrels for washing our hands and for bathing and for flushing the commode or the toilet. And I can share some of those things with you really quickly about how that works. But pretty much we come out to the barrels and fill up water bottles. And because I saved many of them for water storage and for use in the garden, but since many of them were just really clean and the water was clean, we were using it in the house. We had another emergency where we had to use it in the house earlier this year when we had that terrible ice storm. We were using water out of the rain barrels as well for bathing and washing our hands and flushing the toilet, all that. For cooking, we buy spring water right now. But long story short, we thought that we had an issue with the well pump. So we bought a new well pump. My brother put it on and hooked it all up and all that. And we still have no pressure. And based on what we were seeing in the mechanisms inside of the house, because we have a well pump actually in like the basement part of the house, we've got bigger issues. So now we've got a brand new pump, but that's not the issue. And so what that meant was that we were going to have to actually have someone service the well itself. Normally that wouldn't be a problem, but we did not know where the well was. So let me just show you what the process has been like. Because we needed to service the well, we needed to actually find our well. This should have been easy enough, right? Normally wells have caps. Normally they have like a very prominent structure. This is our well right here. This is after digging for several hours. I want to say at least 6 hours of digging, because I had to start all the way up at the house. And after a while, my mom came out to help me. But the first thing I did was identify where the water line comes out of the house. I was able to identify it right about here. And then what I did was I actually just kept digging this chasm until I came to the wellhead. Now, my brother is actually the one that found the wellhead, but we had to follow the water lines all the way down here. And so as you can see, it was these 3 lines that we had to follow. This is a copper line here, and then these are 2 plastic pipes, or I don't know if they're PVC or some other kind of rubberized plastic, that come off of this wellhead. This was all buried. You wouldn't have been able to find it in the grass. We did get a plat depiction from the health department that showed us supposed to be showing us where our well was, and also where the septic tank was. However, that drawing was not exactly to scale, and the only way to really identify it was to dig this out the hard way. Now, thankfully, the day that I started digging, the ground was pretty moist, and it was early in the morning, so it's a little softer in the morning. Made it a little easier. Once I found the lines, it was easy to just trace them along. And you want to do that gently. If you ever end up having to do this, you're going to want to dig gently when you know you're getting close to that line. Be very gentle with it. The last thing you want to do is snap it or somehow, damage it, because we're trying to fix problems, not create them. So at this stage, we are ready for a professional well driller to come out, and he's going to have to pull this out and hopefully repair our foot valve, and then we'll be back in business. But in the meantime, we've run pretty dry on rainwater. God has been so good. If I could just hold on a second, I just have to tell you this story. God has been so amazing to us through this whole process. I just think about all of the different factors that are coming together to really make this experience much more tolerable than it could have been. First of all, we had rainwater storage already, lots of water stored around the house. So we were not in a position where we couldn't carry on regular life functions. Yes, it was a little inconvenient, but we're able to still keep going. So I recommend that you do, if you are moving into the country, invest in some additional water storage in case you end up with some issues like this. Many homes in the country are going to have a personal well or a private well system. So it's best to have some backup just in case you run into an issue with your well system. You do have some emergency resources to draw on. The other thing that I want to say is, we've been out of water for 3 weeks, and for 2 weeks solid, we would drain the water and get to a place where we knew we were running out, and then it would rain and the barrels would fill right back up. So God is on time. Now, this last week, we've gotten to the place where we did actually drain all the water. It didn't rain again, but we also have another resource nearby. We have another family member close by where we can pull water out of their well to be able to function here. So between the combination of rainwater that we already had and water accessibility at another home, we're able to just kind of hold out until we can get someone to come out and service this. And we've also been thinking about some other resources that we can invest in and systems that we can put in place in case we have another run-in the future. But all in all, this has been a great experience. Number one, it happened in the fall, not in the height of the summer and not in the dead of the winter. In the middle of the winter, the water is ice cold outside, and this would have just been really a little bit more tricky because in uncovering the well, one thing I was concerned about was making sure that the lines don't freeze. They're buried in the ground to keep them from freezing. And in these kind of situations, you have to expose all those lines. And I'm glad that I didn't have to really worry about the lines freezing by exposing them in this particular instance. Also, as far as the timing being in the fall right now, the garden is slowed down and actually I don't need to water it as much. So the additional water storage that we have besides just the barrels that you see here, we haven't exhausted that since we stopped getting running water from the well. So we were able to focus on using the rainwater in the barrels for ourselves, for washing and handling things in the house. Whereas before, if I had done that, I would have been really sacrificing the garden and potentially risking ruining the crop. So just so many other things that came together with this. We are extremely blessed, and hopefully tomorrow, when the professionals come out here, we'll be back in business with water. But until the next video, I want you to keep it simple and be blessed. Bye-bye.